Hey there, Citizens Palette here, and welcome back. We're talking Star Citizen again, and today this is gonna be two parts. So, I finally took the plunge and picked up a dual stick setup. This was something I've kind of been watching for a while, trying to figure out what my best options are. And honestly, I'd been a little frustrated as I couldn't find anything in what I felt was a fair price range. There was kind of an entry-level stick, and then there was the high-level stuff where you're going to pay $350 to $450 per stick, but I couldn't find too much in the middle. Well, I went with the entry-level ones. So that kind of sounded a little loaded, like I was going to say, well, I spent $1,000 for tool sticks. No, I spent $102 for the Thrustmaster T16000M series. So before we go any further, this is not sponsored or anything like that. I bought these out of pocket. All of that, this is my impressions of them. And in fact, we're going to split this up into two parts just so it doesn't end up being 30 minutes long. This video here, I'm mostly going to talk about the flight experience within Star Citizen. Then in another video, I will actually go over the sticks themselves, my thoughts on them, if I would recommend them to someone that's maybe, wanting to try out different options within the Star Citizen, HOTAS, dual stick, rudder, all that stuff. The TLDR is, yes, this is a smart entry point, as there's unfortunately not much out there between this. Like, if you, see the next video for that. We'll go into that a lot more. Okay, dual stick within Star Citizen. I guess we need to first talk about, well, let's start with Arena Commander. I've played a lot of Arena Commander over the last few days using the dual sticks, and I absolutely love it. Once I got the sticks set up, and I got the key map. There was no default T16000M key map within Star Citizen. They have one for like the X52 Pro, the X56, the Warthog. They do not have any for this one. So I had to basically map from scratch. And that meant, going into Arena Commander, running it, flying around for a little bit, mapping a little bit, and then going back over to Persistent Universe, doing a little bit more. But after about 3 hours, I got the map down, and now going forward, I should be able to recreate that map pretty easily. I have it saved. Perhaps that's something I could share out later on. We could do a Dropbox or whatever to that file for what mine is. But basically, on my right-hand stick, I have all my weapons, so primary fire, secondary fire missiles. I have my countermeasures. I have my targeting, target closest enemy, target next enemy, target friendly, and target subcomponent of my current targets. And that's the stick on the right hand, plus then obviously the stick is pitch, yaw, and roll. Left hand stick is thrust forward, thrust back, thrust left, thrust right, cycle countermeasures, thrust up, thrust down, engage cruise control, turn on and off the speed limiter, space brake, afterburner or engine overclock, and then the last one is decoupled coupled mode. So those are the primary ones that I can do without removing my hands from the sticks at all. And that setup works quite well within Arena Commander. That's basically everything I need. I would like the ability to kind of slightly tweak the speed limiter up and down rather than just turn it on and off. Unfortunately, there's no handy sliders. There are sliders on the sticks, but they're down below, so you got to kind of take your hand off the stick and adjust it, and they're just not precise enough to effectively do it, to where I can't just slightly uptick my throttle or downtick my maximum speed. I said throttle, slightly up or downtick my maximum speed. So instead I just turn it on and turn it off. Other than that though, for combat, it works quite well. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I found myself really wishing I had. At this point, I don't think so. I think I've gotten it all dialed in for that. In terms of actual flying and using it, it took me about 90 minutes to kind of really get the hang of the flying with it, but that was more just getting a feel for the sticks than anything else. I will say for me personally, the actual, I want to thrust forward and left, I just push forward and left with my left hand, came very naturally. I kind of, in my mind, I went at it almost like Mech Warrior. In fact, that's one of the reasons I also bought this stick is Mech Warrior Mercenaries 5. Mercenaries? Wow. Mercenary 5 should be awesome with this type thing. But that's kind of how I think of it in my mind, as a mech that I can't turn my torso. So I'm using the left-hand stick for all that stuff. The right-hand stick is for my aiming. And yeah, within 90 minutes, I was feeling very comfortable with it using gimbal assist. With gimbal assist, I was just going through mowing down targets. The first time I took it out, I took a 300i out. I did have it modified. I think I had the sawbucks on it. It wasn't the default loadout, because the default loadout, as we've talked about in the 300i video, sucks. But I think I was running 3 sawbucks on it, size 2s. I went through Pirate Swarm solo, didn't die once, all 15 rounds with the 300i. Now that's not like amazing accomplishment, but for being the first time out with that thing, not flying into a rock or whatever, being able to do it single player, that was pretty good. And you know, the 300i is not the most durable ship in the game for when a cutlass jumps you and launches every missile it has. Yay cutlasses. And yeah, that experience was quite good. In fact, I'm looking forward to this afternoon, after this video is done, everything else is jump back in, play some more Arena Commander. I've just been playing different loadouts. I've picked up the Arrow again, and man, is the Arrow, man, that ship is so good. I don't know, a $75 ship should not be more fun and just as competitive as the Saber at $175, $170, but it really is. Man, that Arrow, it's so much fun to fly. But yeah, I look forward to getting back into it. Non-gimbaled, now we have some problems. So I'm going to put some footage up here. I'm probably not, I'm definitely not the first person to notice this, but I'd love to hear other people's inputs on it. So watch this footage. I've tried either ships that don't have gimbaled weapons, talking about the Glaive and the default Saber Raven loadout, or ships that do have gimbaled weapons that I've locked the gimbals on. And something I noticed is, if I'm coming on a ship, even if my crosshair is spot in the middle of the lead pip circle and I pull that trigger, my projectiles tend to fly 2, 3, 4 ship lengths behind the target. They're missing the target by a significant amount. And from what I can tell, this seems to be that the lead pip reticle doesn't take into account angular momentum of your ship. If you kind of bring your ship to a stop, or you can get that where you're flying exactly one axis, generally forward, then all of a sudden the shots are at least, you know, straddling the target. They're coming very close to the target, where any little movements kind of make sense for it. But once you add in any type of angular momentum, my shots were missing by upwards of like 200 feet. They were missing by a massive amount. I mean, you can see the footage here. Not all my shots are on, you know, sometimes I'm not quite in the center of that targeting reticle, but generally I'm pretty close to that targeting reticle. And then look how far behind the ship they fall. And I've tried this on different ships, different weapon loadouts. It's not certain weapons, it's not certain ships from what I can tell. It's just the game's not keeping track of that. I'm guessing this is something they know about. I know there's been talk about the aiming reticle isn't always accurate. I think previously I had tried with like the Glaive using keyboard and mouse. And when you're trying to do keyboard and mouse, I'm more focused on, my eyes are more on putting the mouse cursor over the target. And I wasn't actually viewing how much my projectiles were missing by. I was finding with the joystick, it was easier to get the crosshair over the lead pip reticle, that I was able to more observe the overall environment, and I was more easily to see how much this was missing by. So I'm guessing this is just a problem with 3.5, the new flight model. They haven't gotten I forget what that's called, whatever the background is that's driving that. They haven't gotten that all worked out quite as smoothly as they should, and hopefully that works. But for now, it's kind of frustrating me, as I have a number of very good non-gimbaled ships. The Glaive, obviously, the Saber. Now the Saber you can at least gimbal, but when you gimbal a Saber down to 4 size 2s, well, then you might as well fly the Arrow. It's a more enjoyable ship to fly. And then, unfortunately, there's nothing I can do with the Glaive. It's kind of like, if I could spawn only Connies, sure, I can shoot a Connie, but getting through shooting, when killing an Aurora is a frustration for a Glaive, it's like, oh man, this just sucks. Hang on, I got a cat coming. Yeah, so luckily that's not a flaw with the sticks themselves, and that should be something they can hopefully fix. It just, you know, dual stick setup, you're gonna have a lot more angular momentum going on almost the entire time. You're very rarely gonna be flying directly forward or whatever. So it really stood out, and that certainly was a frustration. But overall, the dogfighting experience with the dual sticks, once I got my mind around them, got the key bindings in, it was great. I absolutely loved it. It was much better than I expected. And it's really hard to explain. Like, I previously, when I had my X50, I mean, I still have my X52, but before I bought this, like, in my mind, I was like, well, why would it be so much better? I don't really know. You got the throttle, and it seems like you would want to just have throttle on or throttle off, and you can kind of linearly adjust the throttle rather than have to hold the stick forward in order to continue throttle. And I'll still admit, in my mind, that makes a lot of sense. But when you actually sit down and you're in the middle of the dogfight and everything, it doesn't seem to really matter. Like, you're not holding the stick that far forward, and it's not like the stick has a huge amount of pressure against you. You're just kind of, all right, it's forward, backing off. Especially once you tie in the brake and the engine overclock, so you're coming around and it's a lot faster on a stick to go from we're approaching a ship, we're now off of the ship, we're rotating 180 degrees as we pass it, we're kicking in the engine overclock to burn off our now momentum carrying us past this to catch us back up with it and everything. And it does feel better. I wish I could give a good analogy of why. I don't have one. But it, like, right off the bat, like I said, within 90 minutes, it was feeling very natural to me. It's not all perfect, though. As with everything, there's a trade-off. I will admit, like, so that dogfighting, things along those lines, it's all great. In the persistent universe, it's a bit more of a mixed bag. If you're going out and you're doing specific missions that are combat related, bounty hunting missions, combat patrol missions, going out and destroying the scanners, where you're, combat, okay, they work pretty darn well. It's just like being an arena commander. However, if you're going over to point A, you're going to pick up a black box, you're going to throw it in the back of your ship, then you're going to fly over, drop it off at point B, maybe you'll go down and clear out that base down on the moon or whatever, then you're going to fly back up, maybe you'll kill a pirate on your way, go do a cargo run. That's where it becomes a lot more of a problem. There's enough buttons that I can get where I can get my quantum drive to spool up, I can activate quantum drive, I can lower landing gear, I can even adjust my min and max speeds with the slider. It's not the most elegant, but it works. So I can come in, I can land. But I can't walk around the space station with the joysticks. I can't pick up packages and drop packages off. I can't interact with ship terminals. I can't open the star map and select the destination, lock it in on the star map. I can't open the contacts list and request landing clearance. I can't request opening of the bays above the landing dock to take off. All of that stuff I have to do on the keyboard and mouse. So in my normal gameplay, I'm constantly back and forth, keyboard and mouse, back to the sticks, back to the keyboard and mouse, back to the sticks and everything, to the point where unless, like I mentioned at the beginning of this little section here, unless I'm specifically going out and just doing combat type patrols and stuff, I'm going to just use the keyboard and mouse still. Hopefully in the future, when the game develops out and becomes, more robust and everything, and we start seeing more common fleet actions against each other, longer, more drawn-out combat experiences. Maybe you're going down and assaulting a base. So first you got to up higher in the atmosphere. You take out, a couple defending ships. You come down in. You take out some ground guns and stuff, and you spend 20 minutes or so actually in combat, flying around. The sticks will be great. But for now, it's just, there's not enough gameplay in that element that I'm not back and forth so much. That doesn't mean the sticks aren't good, and for their price, they do seem to be, price is subjective. But for me, $101 for what I'm going to use them for, I'm actually okay with that. Considering the last time I bought a HOTAS was 10-ish years ago for the old X52, $100 now. The big tell will be, do they last? But now we're getting into the other video. I'm about to start rambling, so I think we'll call it about there. The dual flight system, I do have a tough time explaining why it's so much better. Even in my mind, I still look at it and say the throttle should be just as good in most situations. And maybe if you are running a Caterpillar, running cargo and stuff, the throttle might be a little bit better. But now, actually, let's dive into that a little bit more. With the old system, the previous flight model, when there really wasn't cruise control and you kind of just had to hold throttle forward, I would actually 100% agree with that. With the new system, with cruise control and everything, that kind of negates a lot of that. Now with this stick, I have on my left-hand stick, I can just, boop, I have cruise control on. I can then, same with the left-hand stick, I can turn on and off the maximum velocity limiter, so I can, we're up to max speed, we're coming in and all that stuff. So I can kind of, through the buttons, use the left-hand stick like the HOTAS, and then when I'm not doing that, when I am in a fight or whatever, I have the full movement and the higher precision of the stick to do more angular movement and all that stuff than I did with the throttle. Maybe that's the best argument for it. In the end, you might want both. You might want both. It's really going to be hard to say. There will be bonuses to throttles for some ships, but 3.5, cruise control, and all that stuff definitely does make this a little more viable. So there you go, guys. That's my impressions with the dual sticks. Hopefully that made sense. I'm trying to do this without also talking too much about the sticks. That'll come in the next video because there's a whole lot to say about them, the cost of things, and other options on the market. Until then, though, this has been Paller. Thanks for watching.